Hello, good morning.
Hi, hi.
Hello.
Hello. Almost everyone is there. That's good. I was almost not there because we got a security update that was pushed with the result that I was not able to connect anymore, and it's only like got solved 5 minutes ago. So or most of us are there. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, okay. Because it sounds like different in my headset than usual. Only 2 persons are missing, so we can get started. First, are there any questions from yesterday before we move on with the second business scenario to practice the PAX 8?
Yes, Göran here.
Yes.
I have had some issues to really distinguish when it comes to this instructed amount and then this instructed settlement amount.
Interbank settlement amount.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the
Maybe
yeah.
we bump
Yeah.
into that in this second scenario though, so we can set up for that.
Yes, indeed. This will be more clear in this example because here there will be charges and exchange rate with what we did not have in the other exercise.
Yeah.
All right, then I propose to move on with this second use case scenario for the PAX 8. After that, we'll see the PAX 2 and the PAX 9. And I think that will be all for today. And then tomorrow, we'll continue with the PAX 4 and the CAM messages. All right. So in this scenario, our friend KBC, again, with this big code, has received a payment request from Contec, the corporate located in Belgium, with the account that is mentioned. Contec asks to pay the equivalent of 1 million euro in Swiss francs to another corporate, which is Total Concept, address in Switzerland, with an account at UBS Bank. The creditor pays the transaction charges and KBC charges 50 Swiss francs. You have the exchange rate that KBC uses and KBC also uses Credit Suisse as their correspondent. And they ask to execute the payment with today's date as settlement date. You have the purpose for the payments, which is payrolls for staff at Total Concept with the reference that is mentioned. So we are looking at creating the PAX 8 that is sent from KBC Bank, from Cred BBB to Credit Suisse, Cred ZZ. So as yesterday, best is to start with the identifications of the different actors in the flow. I don't know, do you want to do that together again, or would you like to do it yourselves? Let's do it together again, as it's early morning still for some of you. So which role we have to look at KBC, and how will KBC identify the actors in the whole, in the payment leg that is sent to Credit Suisse in this PAX 8? How will it define the different actors? Comtech, what is the role of Comtech?
Debtor.
Debtor, indeed. Then we have KBC Bank sending the PAX 8, so is the
Debtor agent.
Indeed, I heard two things, but both are correct because KBC here has a dual role again. It's instructing agent, it's the sender of the PAX 8, and it's also the debtor agent. So it's sending the PAX 8 to Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse is therefore the instructed agent, correct? And then we have two actors left. We have UBS, that will be the creditor agent, and then Total Concept.
Creditor.
Yes, the creditor. So with that, you can already populate quite some elements in the PAX 8. I will give you 10 to 15 minutes to give it a try, and then we'll go over it together again. Everybody still knows how to get to my standards and to open the PAX 8?
Yes. I thought that was homework, so I already did it.
Oh, you already did it. No, I said you can, but you will have time in the session, unless everyone already did it. I don't know. But I mentioned yesterday that it was not needed to do it after the session, that we would have time during today's session to do it.
Okay, I must have missed that because I lost my connection.
Okay. How are you doing? You still need a couple of minutes more, or are you done?
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. Okay, let's go through it together then. So we have the application header here again that opens. We have our from. What did you put in the from?
KBC.
KRED.
Indeed. EEBB. And here, remember, you can either put the 8-character big or the 11-character big, but if you put 8, for instance, then as there's a rule that the bigify from the from in the business application header needs to match the instructing agent, you need to make sure that you have in both elements either the big 8 or the big 11. We close the from, then we have the to, who was KBC Bank sending the message to.
Credit
Yes, Credit Suisse, indeed. And then we have our business message identifier that is given, the message definition identifier. Did you put there?
Fax 8001. No, yeah,
Yeah,
08.
yes. And what is the rule there?
The same as the application document.
As this one here, as the namespace. So this is called the namespace. So the message definition identifier needs to match with what you see here in the namespace. Then we have our business service.
Let's Swift CBPRplus 02.
Indeed. Where did you get it?
On the header of the
header in my standards. If you go in the usage guideline of the PAX 8, you will find the usage identifier, and that is where you will see Swift CBPRplus.02. These are the rules that you are telling the network which rules that it needs for the validation. Okay, our application header is done. We open the document. In the document, we first have the group header, where we have the message ID that was given. Just a reminder, the message ID is, let me let in Maya, okay, she's there. The message ID needs to match with the
message identifier.
The business message identifier in the application header, correct. Number of transactions.
1.
Indeed, CBPRplus does not allow more than one transaction in the message for the moment. What is in the settlement information, first mandatory element settlement method? What is the settlement method here?
Put in the.
Did everyone put in that?
I put both because I was uncertain. I said in there first, but then I changed because
Okay.
creditor is supposed to pay this. So please explain how to think.
Yeah, no. So here the settlement method is, so we said in a PAX 8, in a serial PAX 8, every leg has settlement, and you need to specify in each leg who will do the settlement. If it's INDA, so you have the choice between INDA, INGA, and COVE. Here it's not a cover payment, so that's already one less. It's either INDA or INGA. INDA means that the instructed agent will do the settlement. INGA means the instructing agent will do the settlement. Here we know, how do they say it? KBC uses Credit Suisse as their correspondent. So it's true, they could have put it a bit more clearly. Here, I would understand if I read this, that Credit Suisse is servicing an account for KBC Bank. So that means that it would be INDA, as Credit Suisse is the servicing institution. It's Credit Suisse that will do the settlement for this leg. If it would have been KBC Bank that is servicing the account of Credit Suisse, then you would have used INGA. Is that clear?
I hear what you say, but I don't think it's very clear.
No?
It's not in my head. I mean, it's
So KBC has an account at Credit Suisse. So the Nostro account of Credit Suisse, the settlement will happen on the Nostro account of Credit Suisse here. Of KBC at Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse is the servicing institution. It would be Credit Suisse, so the instructed agent that would do the settlement. If it was
So
maybe I get-
KBC has an account
at Credit Suisse. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would find it, yeah, more obvious if I will change maybe this wording. Instead of saying KBC uses Credit Suisse as their correspondent, say KBC has an account at Credit Suisse. That makes it more clear, I find. Credit Suisse is the servicing institution for KBC Bank. So KBC is telling them to use that account, in fact, for this leg, for the settlement of this leg.
Okay. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing at my bank, banks are sending us INGA, which is wrong because their account is held at our bank. So
Yeah, then it should be INDA. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
So we're not
yes,
expecting
indeed.
INGA, but we're getting it.
No, you should tell them that they should use INDA. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I got confused about the wording KBC charges 50 Swiss franc here. That's maybe what confused me.
Okay. So that's for the charges, in fact. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so our settlement method is INDA. We close the settlement information, we close the group header, and we go into the credit transfer transaction information block. The payment identification, the instruction ID is given here. What did you put for the end-to-end ID?
Not provided.
Indeed. It's the debtor that needs to provide the information, and if they do not provide one, you have to put not provided. The UTR is given. We close the payment identification. We go to the payment type information. And then we have the category purpose. Category purpose, what did you put there?
I
Is
put
it
SAL as it's a salary.
SALA
Yes, and how, where did you find it?
on the external code set list?
Indeed. Does everyone remember the external code set list? You have to take it from the ISO website and look it up there. Sometimes you can have more than one code that is convenient. So you can pick one that is the closest to what you want. But as we said, category purpose, this has an impact on the processing. So you should have bilateral agreements if you are using this code that, for instance, salary payments will be processed faster than if you use another code. So category purpose, not the same as purpose that we find further down in the message. Purpose, that was just an information for the creditor for the reconciliation, no impact on the processing, while this category purpose has an impact on the processing. Okay, so Sala for salary. Yes.
That is a optional field, isn't it? We don't need to put
Yes, no, you don't need to put it. It's just here for the sake of the exercise that it's that it's asked, but it's an optional element. And then we get into the amounts. So what did you put for the instructed amount, for instance? Because that is the easiest to start with.
I put on €1,000,000.
Yes, the instructed amount is the original amount in the original currency without deduction of any charges. So the instructed amount is the amount of money that is moved between the debtor and the creditor. Don't know if it will first, yeah, no. I thought it would first give the instructed amount, but it didn't. It gave the interbank settlement amount. So here, can someone explain how, if you have the same, how did you get to the interbank settlement amount? Because there we see it's different from the instructed amount, interbank settlement amount. How did you calculate it?
Oh, then you have to do that, use the exchange rate and minus the 50.
Indeed, it's the instructed amount times the exchange rate minus the charges, and then you should come to this amount. So the interbank settlement amount can change from leg to leg. That's the amount of money that is moved between instructing and instructed agent. And there can be deduction of charges, and it's not the same currency anymore, so an impact of the exchange rate. So the interbank settlement amount changes from leg to leg, while the instructed amount remains the same.
Okay, so changes from leg to leg.
Yeah, so interbank settlement amount is between instructing and instructed, while the instructed amount is the money that is moved between the debtor and the creditor.
Instructing
Okay.
agent and instructed agent.
The settlement date was the 17th, so pay attention to the formatting of the dates in ISO. Instructed amount we said was 1 million. The exchange rate was given here. Yes.
I thought that it says today's the date.
Yeah, but yeah, today's date as a settlement. Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, but it is
doesn't-
today's because the credit, if you look at the group header, this is the day they're discussing. The credit date is
yes,
the
here.
17th.
Oh,
We
okay,
don't change it for every training, indeed. Yeah.
All right. I just put yesterday's date or today's date.
Yeah, okay, understand, yeah. The charge bearer?
That's credit.
Yes, it says the creditor pays the transaction, so it's cred.
Oh, one thing on the activity page, it actually says December 13th, 2022.
On which activity page? The one before?
Well, no, on the packet you gave us that we printed out for ourselves, it
Really,
actually
it's not the same?
Yeah, it's another date. It's another date
Really?
in the PowerPoint.
Okay.
2022.
I will take note of it and change it then.
okay.
Thank you.
But same logic at least.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so cred. And then what did you do? There was a rule, if you remember, that if the charge bearer is cred, then
Then you have to put the amount of the charge.
yes, the charge information element here becomes mandatory. Because it's marked as an optional element, but if charge bearer is cred, then charges information becomes mandatory. And so you need to put the amount of the charges and the agent that took the charges. So what did you put?
50 Swiss franc.
Indeed, it's 50 Swiss franc. and the agent.
I put
KR.
No, it's here it says KBC charges 50 Swiss francs. So it's KBC taking the charges. If you would have Credit Suisse that also takes charges, then in the next leg, you should have twice the charges information element. Okay?
Oh, so it appears twice if the
Yes,
But
each
it's- oh.
agent, each time charges are taken, it needs to be mentioned. So that in the end, the creditor agent can let the creditor know how many charges are taken by whom for reconciliation purposes.
And for the agent, you would use the big FI.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Uy, I hear myself echoing. Then we have the different agents. So starting with the instructing agent.
KREDBEBB.
Indeed. Again, because it needs to match the from in the business application header, right? Instructed agent,
Credit Suisse one.
this way. Indeed. Then we have the debtor,
contact.
Comtech, indeed, with the postal address broken down in the sub-elements. The debtor account,
The BE5.
the BE 5000, indeed. And we have the debtor agent,
UBS, like UBS or UBS.
no, the debtor agent,
The credit.
again,
Right.
yes, KBC
Yes,
bank
KR.
again, eh? 'Cause it's the one here, the debtor agent, we have the debtor agent. So again, KBC, Credit BEBB. They had a dual role. They were instructing agent and debtor agent. Then the creditor agent.
USB.
We have
UBS.
UBS, indeed.
Yes.
Yes.
And the creditor,
Total concept.
total concept, indeed.
Mission.
The address, the creditor account.
CH.
That's the CH one. Yeah. And then here we have our purpose elements.
And how do we grab that list again from the ISOs?
Yeah, let me show you. I
Please.
put the link yesterday in the chat. I don't know if it was you that asked it. But I will also add that link again when I send out the material. I will add also the link to that external code list. So I will stop sharing here this link and go into this sharing mode. Let me.
Oh, and it's just called external code sets.
Indeed, external code sets,
Got it.
right. You
Yep.
got it in the chat of yesterday or what, but I will show it again here for the others that still want to. Let me, oops, share this. And so I hope you see my screen now when I go to the iso.org website. So here in the catalog of messages, you find the external code sets. And if you scroll down, you can download them in several formats. We take the XLS. And you are in the external code list. If you go to the tab all code sets. Here you can filter on the code that you will find in the purpose element in the PAX8. If you select in my standards, let me go to my standards also. I go to my selection here and I select the PAX8. I take my result view because I want to see the clean view. If you would not know by heart where to find the purpose element, know that you can also search here in each message. You can search on an element and it will show you where it finds it. It searches both on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side in the text. But if you then scroll down in the message, you will see where you will find purpose. Now, we know that it's in the credit transfer transaction information block. So you see here we have category purpose. It's not that one that we want. Now we want to have the purpose element here, this one.
Okay.
So it's this element that we are now trying to populate in the exercise. You see it's a choice element. So you can either choose a code or a proprietary format, but the code is recommended. If you select code, you will find here on the right-hand side a reference to an external code. If it starts with external, you know you have to go to the external code list. So you have to copy this string and then go back to your Excel sheet. Are you seeing my Excel now? If I switch, you saw my standards and now you see Excel.
Yeah, full screen.
Okay.
Fine.
All right. Fine.
Yep.
You filter in the first column and you will have all the options that you have for this element, for this purpose element. Now, did you find something that was suitable in this list for our exercise?
So it would not be the same as the code that we had before.
No. There could be something for salary. I don't know. I don't know all these codes by heart either. Salary. Let's have a look if it's fine. Salary payment. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the same code exists. But I think there is also one with, if you say,
Like that RY. Is that what you found?
which one do you say?
SLRY for salary.
No, I had payroll, PAYR. Oh, was that the one? Wait.
Yeah, PAYR.
Yes,
There's a-
PAYR. Yes, that was the one I was saying. Yeah. So as I said, you can have several codes that match your purpose, because there are so many.
This is more like informational, right?
Yes, yes. This is for
Rather-
reconciliation purpose for the creditor, indeed. Yeah, yeah. It was just to show, to repeat how to find the information. Okay. So let's go back to our. Yeah, here it said payroll indeed, but salary could also have done it, right? And then there's the remittance information that is left, the unstructured remittance information in this case.
SAL.
SAL, indeed. So remember, for structured remittance information, that always needs to be bilaterally agreed. And there was that guidance document of the PMPG, should you want to read more about unstructured information. That makes me think that yesterday somebody asked about the ultimate creditor. I've also posted in the chat a guidance document of the PMPG on the ultimate party, so on the ultimate creditor, on the ultimate debtor. Should you want to read more about that, you can go in that document.
I'm not sure, but I think
yes.
after each call, the chat becomes like new for each call. So I don't know if.
Yeah, I pasted it in the chat of today, before before you guys were there. It's there, but maybe you cannot see it. But I've also everything that I put in the chat, I will add it to the mail when I send out the training material.
Okay.
But just for the ones that have access to it, it's there in the chat. That PMPG document, should you want to read more about ultimate debtor and ultimate creditor. For the ultimate debtor, I gave an example of the parents that paid for their child. So the parents are the account owner. In that case, the parents would be the debtor and the child would be the ultimate debtor. And in that document for the ultimate creditor, for instance, they give an example of a credit that goes to a finance company, but it would be the ultimate creditor would be the customer of a finance company, for instance. Or if we then think about the university, it could also be that the university in our example is a public institution, so would not be the account owner, would be the government that owns the accounts. So the government would be the creditor, but then the ultimate creditor would be the university, if you want an example. But there's a lot more to read about the ultimate parties in that document, should you be interested. All right, and then there was another question yesterday about my standards. The download, when you're trying to download a usage guideline, that you cannot download the result view. That's correct. There's not a real option. It's always like the content view, and then you have to filter if you do not want to see some changes, but there's no function as such to just download the result view.
So that was me.
Okay.
And so that means that every time we have that, when you have a red, the cell is in red and has a cross.
Indeed, it is removed. Okay. You can filter it out. Yeah.
All right, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any more questions about the exercise that we did for the instructed and the interbank settlement amount? Is that now clear, the difference between those two amounts?
Yes, I think. Yeah, I think it is. Well, okay. It was a good short explanation that it was the what's between the instructing and instructed agent, that is the interbank settlement amount.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah. All right, then let's now move to the PAX2. The PAX2 is the payment status report, and it's exchanged between agents to provide status information about instructions that are previously sent. So it can be a response to a PAX8, a PAX9, a PAX10, and a PAX4. I could ask, what is the equivalent in MT? But that's a bit of a trick question because we do not have an equivalent in MT, in fact. It's not the same as the AC and the NAC that we already discussed, because AC-NAC, we said, is a network acknowledgement. So before the message reaches the receiver, it's not a business validation, while the PAX2 is a business validation report, in fact. Okay.
Is it a mother?
We'll see that it's not it's not mandatory in all cases, but sometimes it is mandatory. And we'll see now when it becomes mandatory. Okay. So we have an overview of the flow, then again, the block structure, and then again, some practice with business scenario number 3. So here, the first example that we see is what we call a happy flow, a successful payment flow, where we have our debtor that sends a payment initiation request, a pain 001 to the debtor agent. The debtor agent, if that was bilaterally agreed, can give back a pain 002. This would be very similar to a PAX 002, but we do not cover it in this training. It's not CBPRplus. Remember, these grayed out errors mean it's not CBPRplus. This is corporate to bank, so it would be ruled by another market practice, which is the Common Global Implementation, CGI, for corporate to bank. Then the debtor agent will send the PAX 8 to the intermediary agent, and the intermediary agent can, if that was bilaterally agreed, give back a PAX 002, for instance, with a pending status. Then continues, the second PAX 8 is sent from B to C. And here again, if that was bilaterally agreed, C can give back a PAX 002 to say that the settlement is complete, for instance. And then the statements are sent to the creditor and to the intermediary agent, because the creditor agent here, Bank C, is servicing institution for both the creditor and the intermediary agent. So this is a successful payment flow. In this case, the PAX 2 is based on bilateral agreement, so it's not mandatory. If we go to the next slide, then we'll see.
Sorry,
yes?
The debtor agent wouldn't receive the final or the accepted message, like in series.
It could still,
from
like,
C to B to A.
they could, it's an example here, but there could be several PAX 2s, first a pending status and then a bit later a complete status. That's possible. All will depend on bilateral agreements. So it's nothing mandatory here. All is based on bilateral agreements.
Okay.
How do we find out if we have a bilateral agreement with them?
I don't know. That makes the agreements. You should have guidance somewhere in your organization. What are the bilateral agreements that have been made with your correspondents? No.
Okay. Need to find out where to.
Yes.
But that's a good question. I think. Is there some kind of market practice here, or is it? I mean, either I guess you use it or you don't use it.
You could, you use it or you
mismatch
don't, or you can say, well, I do not want to receive, if all goes well, I do not want to receive anything. Or you could say, I would like to have the PAX 2 as from, I don't know, 100,000 euros payments, but not for smaller amounts. That's all, up to you, in fact. Up to these bilateral agreements that you say, I do not want, if all goes well, I don't need any PAX 2, or as from a certain threshold, that's up to you.
And Sophie, what kind of volumes do you see in terms of the payment messages, you know, like the PAX 08 close to PAX 02 flows and existing ISO flows? I'm just curious what the adoption level is on that.
That I don't really have any numbers on that. I wouldn't know.
And yeah, okay.
No. I can check if my colleagues would know, for instance, but I don't know. I never heard any numbers on that.
We don't use it.
No. Well, in the case of positive payments, you don't use it.
Yeah, in the case of positive.
Yeah. If we go to the next slide for rejected payment flows, then.
Sophie, before you move on, apologies.
Yeah.
You've not mentioned about the CAMP 54 in that flow.
Yeah, it can be complemented with the CAMT 54 also. So the debit and credit notification or the statement, it's the statement which is mandatory, but the 54 then is optional.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay. So our rejected payment flow, well, the beginning will be the same. We have our debtor that sends a payment initiation to its debtor agent. Eventually he gets back a payment 002. Then the first PAX8 gets sent. If bilaterally agreed, there's a PAX2. And then the second PAX8 that is sent. Here, in this case, we have settlement method INDA. That means that our instructed agent here will do the settlement. But let's assume that our agency here discovers that there is an issue with the creditor account and that he will not be able to do the settlement. In that case, so as the PAX8 is not settled yet, he can reject the PAX8 and send a PAX002, in which case it is not optional anymore. Here it becomes mandatory. If it's to reject a payment message that is not settled yet, then the PAX2 becomes mandatory. Okay. And
What
then,
about
yeah.
the case where they sent in Inga incorrectly? Can we still send a PAX2 back? Because
if they sent Inga in, yes, if you, as long as you did not do the settlement, you can send a PAX2 back. Because
Okay.
even if they say Inga incorrectly, it means that you are doing the settlement. It's INDA, in fact. As long as you haven't done the settlement, you can send a PAX2.
Okay, thank you.
Once the settlement is done, because here it continues, here between A and B, settlement had already taken place. In that case, going back instead of that, in that case, B will need to send a payment return with the PAX004.
But just to be interesting point, so you have to send the PAX02. You'd be sending the PAX04 anyway, but you have to do the PAX02 as well.
Now here there is no movement of funds. The funds are only being returned here. The return chain will start here at B.
Oh, okay.
So
Because
the
here there
PAX
has settlement had
Because
not
you're just
yet
saying you're not even
taken
accepting.
place.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
PAX004 will be sent only once, I'm sorry, one settlement has already taken place, right?
Indeed, indeed.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Settled.
Okay, so these are the flows. And then, yeah, you can, for a PAX4, you can again have a bilateral agreed PAX002. But in that case, it's not mandatory anymore. Let's now look at the block structure again.
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah, sure.
Is this used for the GPI tracker as well? This flow, or you know that?
GPI is a bit different. You see here, these reports are sent, it's interbank, it's between banks. While when you talk about confirmations to the tracker, we have the MT199 and the TRCK messages. Those are sent to the tracker. It's not interbank.
Oh, okay.
So it's not the same. It's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, Sophie, you said there's an empty and there's another one. What's the other one you said?
The TRCK for the GPI, you mean?
Right.
For the
Yeah,
messages that are sent to the tracker, TRCK, yes.
But that's outside of the CBPRplus?
No, that's also CBPRplus, but there is no, the deadline has not yet been announced for that. So for the moment, you can still do both MT, and the TRCK is the ISO equivalent of the MT199, the TRCK messages. For the moment, both can still be sent to the tracker, and there has not been a real deadline that has been announced yet.
Okay.
We are trying for new GPI customers that we say that they should start. It should not implement the MT199
Yeah, that would be
anymore to
us.
confirm to the tracker, but in practice, it's still not. We're still not there yet. I think now campaigns will be started soon to have the existing GPI users to move to TRCK. I don't know if there will be a firm deadline which will be already mentioned there or not. I haven't really had confirmation on that yet.
Okay, thank you, Sophie.
Okay. So the block structure now for these PAX2 messages. Again, you will see the block structure. We saw the block structure of the PAX8 yesterday. It's similar to the PAX8. We are talking about the CBPRplus usage guidelines. So remember, usage guidelines are subsets of the base message, are restrictions of the base message. Think of our onion. The base message is the first layer of the onion, and then the layers get smaller, get more restricted. So this is already the restriction of the base message. You see the business application header that is mandated by CBPRplus, which you will not find in the base message. And you also see that the supplementary block has been removed already by CBPRplus. Then for the rest, you have the group header, same as we had in the PAX8, but here it's reduced. It only contains two elements, the message identification and the creation date and time. And then our second block here in the PAX2 is called the transaction information and status. So let's have a look at this transaction information and status, because the group header that we have already seen, and then we will go into my standards and we will look at both again. In the PAX2, you will find these original, all these elements that start with original. Original means it's coming from the underlying message, the message that you send a report on. You send a report on a previously received payment. So this original refers to that previously received instruction. Original group information first has sub-elements, has three sub-elements, of which two are mandatory. You have the message identifier and the message name. We'll see in my standards what you have to put there. So it's the original information from the underlying message, in fact. Original UETR, that's also very important. So the PAX2 has the same, has the UETR of the underlying message, so that we can track them together. In fact, they are part of the same transaction. The most important field, in fact, is this transaction status field. So this, as the name says, it specifies the status of the transaction, and the status will be in a coded form. So again, we will have to use the external code list here to go and look up this transaction status. The next field, the status reason information, is marked as an optional field, but there is a rule that says if this transaction status is reject, then the status reason information becomes mandatory. These are just some examples. These are not all the codes for the transaction status. You have, I think, around 20, between 20 and 30 codes for the transaction status. And then the status reason information will be coming from that external code list. There you have a whole series of codes. I think it's close to 200, no, 200, between 200 and 300 codes for this status reason information in case of a reject. You have other elements. If you open up it, you see this greater than sign. You have nested elements inside of the status reason information. So beside the code, you also can have the originator, the party that issues the status. It's not required because Typically, this will be the instructing agent, so you don't have to repeat it if it's the same. And then the reason, so in that list of codes, you have the NARR code, which stands for narrative. It's like a code other, so that you can put additional information. If you pick that code, if you select NAR, then you have to put additional information. Additional information becomes mandatory. You can use additional information with the other codes also, but then it's an optional element. And you see here, instructing agent and instructed agent are mandatory. See, there are no amounts, no accounts in this message because you report on an instruction that is not settled. Okay.
Do we have a timeline to send the transaction back to the original?
No. No. Let's have a look before we do the business scenario first. Let's go to my standards again. You're seeing my standard screen again?
Yep.
Yeah. So let me go to the PAX 2 that we had added to our selection yesterday. So let me close. We are in the content view, so you see the restrictions. So we will go to the result view. You see the message identifier, the usage identifier here is still the same, Swift CBPRplus.02. The business application header that has been added to the message by CBPRplus, the same as what we have already seen, the same rules apply. The from needs to match with the instructing agent. So if you select the big FI, you will find those rules back here on the right-hand side. So nothing new there. The business message identifier still needs to be populated with the message identification that you will find in the group header. The message definition identifier needs to match with what you see in the namespace. The business service, same principle. You have it here in the header of the message. So the same elements are there as we saw for the PAX 8. Then if you open the document, you have the group header. Group header is reduced, only 2 mandatory elements. You have the message identification here in the group header. And then in the transaction information and status block, this is what is new for the PAX 2. You have those original group information elements where it says that the original instruction identification, well, this one is not mandatory, it's an optional element. The original end-to-end identification needs to be the one of the underlying payment message. Original transaction information is also not mandatory. The UETR is mandatory. So your end-to-end and the UETR are mandatory and need to come from the underlying PAX 8 or PAX 9. Transaction status, that is the core of the message, in fact. So your transaction status here, sorry, status, reason, information, transaction status. If the transaction status is reject, you have some rules here. The settlement date is not allowed. Of course, you reject, so it will not be settled. And then if the code is reject, then status, reason, information becomes mandatory. Here you have the originator that is optional because it will be, in most of the cases, the instructing agent. And the reason here, the reason, you have the code and the proprietary option, the code is preferred, again referring to this external code list, the Excel sheet that you can find on the ISO website, and where you can find all these different codes between, I said between 200 and 300 for a negative, for a reject. And if you choose the narrative code, then you will also have to add the additional information. Becomes mandatory if you use the narrative. For the other codes, it can be used, but it remains optional. You scroll further down, you have your mandatory instructing and instructed agents with the same rules. They need to match the from and the to in the business application header.
Sophie, I have a question. I may be getting a bit tired here, but when it comes to the instructing and instructed agent, I assume that change when it becomes PAX 002. Then it cannot be the original ones, right?
No, these are not the original ones. These are the ones sending the PAX to.
Yeah.
These are not the original ones. No. So in the from of the to, it's the sender and the receiver of the PAX2.
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll see it in the business scenario that we will do now, because there was a small activity. It's a short message, so it's go back. So in the business scenario 3, we have our corporate Bikes for You that is requesting its bank, which is UBS in Zurich, to transfer $99,000 to Silverwings that has its account at Citi US. There is a bilateral agreement in place, and Citi US has agreed to send back in return of the PAX 8 a PAX 002 to confirm acceptance and completion of the settlement in the creditor's account. So our Bikes for You has sent the payment initiation request, the pain 001 to UBS. UBS has sent back a pain 002. Then UBS sends the PAX 8 to Citi US, and it's this PAX 002 that you are requested to populate now in this activity. And you have the underlying PAX 008 because you will need it to populate some elements of the PAX 2, right? So the message that is sent from Citi to UBS. All right, will you give it a try?
Message.
In this case, in my standards, we would use the PAX 002 FI to FI payment status report.
Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
thank you.
You will see here in this exercise, the application header is not present anymore. It's just to reduce a bit the work that you have to do, but in reality, it still has to be there. Right? This is just for the sake of the exercise that it has been removed as it's repetition, and we have already seen that before in the other use cases, but in reality, it also has to be completed, right? It's mandatory.
Do we have to go to the ISO to check out the status? Or is
Yes.
that?
Well, if here it's a positive status.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would like to have, if you don't know it by heart, yes, you should go and look it up.
Sophie, are we just doing the positive or the negative as well?
It's in the activity book also the negative. It's I don't have the activity book here, but you can already do the negative also.
Okay.
Okay, shall we have a look at it together?
Yep,
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
So we have our PAX8 on the left, here on the right, the PAX2 sent from city to BS based on a bilateral agreement, so not mandatory in this case. The application header has to be filled in, but is not here in this exercise. We start with the group header. The message ID is given, the credit date and time too, group header is closed. Then we go to the core of the message, transaction information and status block, starting with the original group information. Two mandatory elements, the original message ID. What did you put there?
B dash 1,
Yes.
2.
I will not ask you to read it. Right. So it's the message ID from the underlying PAX8, right? And the original message name ID.
Original message name. I didn't know what that was. Okay.
Ah,
The PAX8.
indeed, the PAX8, but the full name of the PAX8, so with the variant and the version number. So we never say just PAX8, it's always the full name that you have to specify. Close the original group information, original instruction ID. This is an optional element, in fact, but it's here in the exercise. So original instruction ID. Which one did you take there?
That would be the BBBBB.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
We're ending in 1. You read the instruction ID here from the PAX8. Indeed. Original end-to-end ID and original UETR.
ABC.
Also coming indeed here from the left message, the PAX8 from the underlying message. Transaction status. What did you find there?
ACSC.
Did you look that up in the external code list?
I
Yes.
couldn't find it
Is
because
it RJT or what?
Here it would be ACCC, in fact. Or accept a settlement completed creditor account.
Yep, ACC.
Oh, I
Yes.
picked the wrong one.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
The ACSC, that's usually used in the PAIN 002, when the debtor agent communicates to the corporate that the payment has been settled in the account. So that's for this use case of those ACCC. And then we have our instructing and instructed agent mandatory elements. What did you put there?
Sorry, Sophie, just one thing then. On slide 150 on the codes for transaction status, there it says ACSC, so I think that tricked us a little bit.
Yes, probably. But here, yeah, you had to look to the scenario, the text it said. I think
Yeah,
I had to
good.
confirm. Yeah. Yes. It was just to double check that you had opened the external code list and looked for it, or just copied it from. Okay. So what did you put for instructing agent and instructed agent?
UPS.
CD and UBS.
So first the instructing agent.
City.
I'm sorry?
City.
City, indeed. The city, so it's city sending the PAX2 to UBS, right? So instructing and instructed agents, the sender and the receiver of the PAX2. All right, so that was it for the PAX2. Now, what changes would you make to this PAX2 in case it was not positive, in case it was a rejection?
Is that where we
The status.
You would
Indeed,
put RJCT.
The status would become RGCT, and what else?
The return code.
Indeed, you could see there is a blank here in between those. That was already an indicator that an element was missing here and is expected. If you change the code to reject, then the status reason information element becomes mandatory. And did you find the code there?
Yep.
Yeah, the AC04 also from the external code list, right? And that's it for the PAX2, in fact. So a short message, mandatory when it's to reject a non-settled payment.
Sophie, I have a question. You maybe mentioned it, but I zoomed out for a second. In the original message ID and the original instructing ID, it's the same.
This one.
Except for there is a dash one.
Yes, this comes from the PAX8, in fact, because you had that information in the PAX8. Let me go back to the here. Your instruction ID was here, so it was just with a 1, and your message ID was here. Yeah. But the instruction ID, the original instruction ID here in the PAX2 is not mandatory. It's an optional element.
But it's just a coincidence that it's just a dash
it's just
one. I mean, they could have been completely different.
Yes. Yeah.
Sophie, I'm sorry, could you
Or they
please
could have
confirm
been
me?
the same also. So in the PAX8, remember yesterday we said it is mapped, CBPRplus maps it to both message ID, the field 20, for instance, to both message ID and instruction ID, because so far we only have like one instruction in the message, but it's not mandatory. It can be different. But for the moment, they could be the same, as it doesn't really make a difference. We only have one instruction in the message. As long as CBPRplus does not allow more than one, they can be the same, but it's not mandatory for them to be the same.
Sophie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you please remember me where can I find the external codes, the ACCC test?
In the external code list there from ISO, on the ISO website. Is that your question to?
I have the external code itself.
Yes. Then you need to go in My Standards and select the transaction status, the code there, and then look it up filter it in the external code list.
Okay, I have the external code test. I'm going to. How can I know how that I have to put the ACCC in the external code?
Because that was in the business scenario. It said that the bilateral agreement was that Citi would return a PAX2 to confirm acceptance and completion of settlement in the creditor's account. You had it in the scenario, in fact.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if you look then up in the external code list, acceptance and completion of settlement in creditor's account, you will find that it's ACCC. Okay.
Thank you.
So whatever status that should be used has to be previously agreed on, right?
Yeah, that would be part of your bilateral agreements also. If you say, I only want to have it when it's ACCC, for instance, or yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, before we go to the PAX9, I see there is a little poll here, but again, I will have to stop sharing this way because otherwise it doesn't work. And share my screen again. So a little poll, a repetition of yesterday and what we saw today for the PAX2. The codes used in the settlement method element of the PAX8 CBPRplus usage guidelines are which ones?
C.
Indeed, INNA, INGA, and COVE. Can you remember us what do they stand for?
Instructed agent.
Instructed agent account.
Yes, so the settlement, if it's INNA, it's the instructed agent that will do the settlement. INGA, it's the instructing, and COVE is only to be used when there's a cover flow, right?
Yep.
And when you have a COVE in a PAX8, which agents must be present in your PAX8? The reimbursement agents, and they are not allowed when you have INNA and INGA. So only when you have COVE, you will have those reimbursement agents. You had the instructing reimbursement agent and the instructed reimbursement agent. In case those two would be the same, then we only populate the instructing agent. Instructing reimbursement agent, sorry. The code used in the charge bearer element of the PAX8 CBPRplus usage guidelines are
D.
D, indeed. That were. Then you know the equivalents in NMT.
Or Ben Shaw.
Arben and Shah, indeed. According to the CBPRplus guidelines, under which conditions status reason, information reason in the PAX2 becomes mandatory?
D.
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 D, yes, when the transaction status code is rejected. Charges information is a mandatory element of the PAX8 when?
C.
C.
Indeed. So charges information, when we go into my standards, you will see it's an optional element, but there's a rule that says if charge bearer is cred, then it becomes mandatory because the creditor agent will need to explain be able to explain the charges that are taken to the creditor. That's a lot of reading to do. What is the function of the instructing reimbursement agent and the instructed reimbursement agent when sending a PAX8 with the COVE settlement method?
I'll say C.
Does everyone think the same?
Used for settlement.
I would go for A.
Indeed, the correct one is A.
Used to indicate the banking service. Oh. Yep.
Yeah, the difference lies in the details there. There's a lot of reading to do, and as I said, if they are the same, because it could be that the reimbursement agents are the same, instructed and instructing, then we only populate the instructing. What is not true about the PAX 002?
This is the information.
B.
B.
Indeed. Should use the same UETR. That's very important because we need to be able to track the payment. So if you use another UETR, it would not be spotted by the tracker as being part of the same transaction. That's the end of the poll now. I think before we go to the PAX slide, I think you all deserve a small break.
Yay.
Shall we do, what is it now, 34, 15 minutes? Let's say to 50.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And then filter on that string.
Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just trying to make sure, just looking through and just saw a lot of different categories.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's helpful.
Yes, and it gets updated quarterly. Yeah? There's a new version every quarter.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sophie, can I ask a quick question on the PAX 4?
Yes, sure.
So if I take an example of the Cred Bank, KBC Bank earlier on, if we get requested from a client to pass money across to, say, I can't remember the other side of the party, actually, an agent, and that settles. So from our point, it debits our bank account, or the client's bank account, apologies. But then further down the chain, for some reason, for example, the account's closed, a PAX 4 comes in from the second leg, and then a PAX 4 will come into us to say it's been rejected. Correct?
A PAX 4 is not a rejection, is it? It's a return. Eh?
It's return. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah.
Return. So we will get settlement confirmations if we signed up to get those, to say it's settled, and then we also get a return, and there'll be a return of funds as well.
Yes, indeed. The PAX 4 returns the funds. Eh? There has been settlement, so it moves the funds. Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, is everyone back? Because we're 51 now. I think I said 50, so that we can start with the PAX 9. Yeah. All right. PAX 9. So the PAX 9 equivalent of
202.
202. Indeed, the financial institution credit transfer used to move funds between the debtor financial institution to the creditor financial institution. So the big difference here with the PAX 8 is that debtor and creditor must be financial institutions, whereas in a PAX 8, either the debtor or the creditor or both were non-financial institutions, right? So same as in the difference between MT 103 and 202. Quick overview of the flows, because the flows have not changed either. We have the serial flow, we will have the cover flow. So that's a bit of a repeat of yesterday, but I think it can't do no harm to repeat. Then as in every message, we'll go and have a look at the block structure. We'll define the different actors. Because yesterday, I think, we did the actors of the PAX 8, and when we saw the cover flow of the PAX 8, we said we're going to define the actors when we see the PAX 9. So that is what we will do today. We'll highlight the differences with the PAX 8, and then there's also some practice at the end. So the flows. Serial flow. Here it's the most common flow also for the PAX 9. Very similar to the PAX 8, in fact, the message, but lesser elements than in a PAX 8. So here, remember the icons, financial institutions. So we do not see the corporates anymore, only the bank icons. So financial institutions, debtor and creditor must be financial institutions. We have a domestic system here in the middle. That's why it is grayed out, because it's not CBPRplus, but doesn't matter for the flow. So we have the PAX 9 that is sent across the different agents until it reaches the creditor, and you see the optional PAX 2s here. Let's assume these are all happy, positive flows. The PAX 2 is based on bilateral agreements and is optional.
What does core flow mean?
Core flow as opposed to cover flow, because core flow for PAX 9, this is the most used flow, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have
Yes.
a question when it comes to these different financial institutions. Is there anywhere any kind of strict definition of what actually is considered to be a financial institution or not? And the reason for asking is that we have some issues in some countries where certain type of financial institution sends 1 of 3s instead of 2 2s. Is there anything that I mean? There's nothing stopping an FI to send the PAX.
But there is, for
008.
Swift, it depends on the subtype. We have different subtypes, as we call. We have members with shares, members without shares. We have the corporate subtype, but then you have all these other flavors also. I think that's all that is documented in the corporate rules. And then in the fin service definition or the fin service description, it would say which messages can be sent from which subtype to which other subtype.
Okay.
So I think you should go and have a look there. I will check it out and then also add these documents in the mail that I sent. So the one where you can find all the different subtypes, that must be for sure the corporate rules, and then the service description of the messaging service that defines which flows are allowed between the different subtypes, because not everyone can send every message that is linked to the subtype.
But would you say that has that anything to do when we move into ISO from MT, or is that something
that remains? That is something separate. When a Swift a user joins Swift, they get we sign them with a subtype, and that subtype will define what messages they are allowed to send, be it MT or be it ISO.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the different categories, but okay. But then I understand it's nothing that will be impacted by the MT to MX migration. Okay.
No. So let's have a look at the cover flow. It's the same cover flow that we saw yesterday, because it also involves the PAX 8. Remember, we said a cover flow is different from a serial flow. In a cover flow, you have 2 messages that are sent by our agent A here when he decides to go for a cover flow upon receipt of the payment request that he receives from a corporate here. He will send first a PAX 8, which is like an announcement, an advice to agent B that they will be receiving funds, but not through this message, because this PAX 8 will not will not move any funds. The funds will be moved via the reimbursement agents and via the PAX9 COV. So this PAX8 is just an announcement. And in this PAX8, remember, this is the only place in the only flavor of the PAX8 where you could use the COVE settlement method. And with the COVE settlement method, you must mention these reimbursement agents to inform agent B here that he will be receiving the funds through these reimbursement agents. Okay, so this is the use of the PAX-Gov. Now, for the sake of completeness, we also have a PAX9 advice message, the advice flow. This message, the PAX9 advice, will not be covered in this training, but just for completeness, the advice is used, well, it's like a cover flow, but with financial institutions. So instead of the corporates here initiating the flow, these are financial institutions, and then the announcement is made via a PAX9 advice. This is a separate usage guideline that you will find when you go in the collection of usage guidelines of CBPRplus. You will find 3 flavors for the PAX9. You will find the PAX9 without any suffix. So the core one, it's the normal one, PAX9. Then you have the PAX9 COV, which we saw in the previous slide, and you have the PAX9 advice. So this PAX9 advice is like a cover between financial institutions. And the cover message is then the PAX9, the normal one, not the COVE like we had in the cover flow with the PAX8. Here, the cover flow is through a regular PAX9. Okay, just for completeness, we do not cover this message in this training. We will be looking at the PAX9 and the PAX-COV, PAX9 COV. So let's look at the block structure for these 2 messages that we are going to look at in the training, the PAX9 and the PAX9 COV. They are very similar. The only thing that distinguishes the PAX9 COV from the PAX9 is that you have this mandatory underlying customer credit transfer element. That refers to the announcement message, the PAX8. So you will have to repeat information from the underlying PAX8 in the PAX9 COV. In this underlying customer credit transfer information, it will be mandatory to have the debtor, the creditor, the debtor agent, and the creditor agent. The main reason for this underlying customer credit transfer information is for screening purposes. Some remarks about the PAX9 and the PAX9 COV. We have the rule for the instructing and the instructed agent, which remains the same as in the PAX8. So you have the business application header. In the business application header, the from and the to still must be the same as the instructing and the instructing agent. So same as for the PAX8, with the same exception. If you use the copy duplicate element with codes copy or kodu, then this rule does no longer apply. In the PAX9 COV, the end-to-end identification must be the instruction identification of the underlying PAX8. The UETR in the PAX9 COV must be the same as also the underlying PAX8. The debtor agent and the creditor agent, those were mandatory in the PAX8. In the PAX9, they are optional. Now, the actors in the PAX9, You remember this slide from yesterday when we did it for the PAX 8? We need to define all of the different actors in the chain. That will help us also to populate the messages later on when we do the business scenarios. So here we have first the serial message flow of the PAX 9, and the first leg of the payment will be the one between A and B, the PAX 9 here. So we'll do the first one again together, and then you can do the rest. You can give it a try on your own. So the first message is this PAX 9 sent from A to B. How will A define all the different agents here in the chain? So what do you think is A?
Creditor.
I'm sorry?
Creditor.
No, creditor is at the other end of the same, so the debtor, indeed. But it has a dual role. Yes.
Instructing.
It's instructing, indeed. It is sending the PAX 8, so instructing agent and debtor. Remember in a PAX 9, we said the debtor and the creditor must be financial institutions, so that's why we do not have corporates here anymore. Then agent B is receiving the PAX 9, the first PAX 9, so it will be
debtor agent.
Indeed, again, it will have a dual role. One is debtor agent and the other one?
Instructed agent.
Indeed, the instructed agent and the debtor agent. And then the next agent. Or maybe it's easier if you define what are the two at the other end. So here are agent F here.
The creditor.
Will be the creditor, indeed. Now you can use it. And then
yes.
E.
The creditor agent.
The creditor agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I will not hit enter, otherwise he will first populate C and D. But so here we have creditor agent, here we will have creditors. So in between, what do we have?
Would it be something like
intermediary?
Indeed, intermediary. But you have two, so it's intermediary agent 1, intermediary agent 2. We have several now in ISO.
Sophie, in that case, is also available to have another intermediary.
Yes, you could have three.
Three.
Yes, yes, you can have three.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, so the next leg between B and C. Shall we do them all together, or do you prefer to do them on your own? I think you prefer to do them together, no?
Yes.
Instructed agent.
Which one?
B.
And you said instructed?
Instructing, yes.
Instructing, indeed.
Inga.
Instructing is the one that is sending it. So indeed, B will be instructing and C will be
instructed.
Instructed. They always go together, the one sending and the one receiving. But your B will have a dual role. So it instructing and what would be debtor agent also. And here, what would A be?
Debtor.
Debtor. So, okay, now I can hit enter. So the debtor is agent A. Then we have our B, the dual role, instructing agent, sending the message, and debtor agent. C is the instructed agent. And then what do you have at the end?
Creditor.
Our agent F remains the creditor.
The creditor.
E, creditor agent.
Right.
And what would D be?
One intermediary.
IDK
Yes.
agent.
So just one. So you need to call it intermediary agent 1. Okay. The next leg from C to D.
Instructing agent for C.
Indeed.
Instructed agent for D.
Yes, that's correct. And then the beginning of the flow here, debtor remains.
Debtor agent.
Debtor agent. And then we said instructing, instructed. We already had that. And
Creditor
then at the end,
agent and
creditor
creditor.
agent
Yeah.
and creditor. Yeah. The next leg is from D to E.
Sorry, I'm asking question and I'm on mute. Why is on that row C, the B is not also the previous instructing agent?
Previous instructing agent, indeed, you could say so, but because the debtor agent is a more important role than the previous instructing agent.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't mention it as previous instructing agent. So in D to E, what is the role of D?
Instructing.
It'll be the instructing agent.
It will be instructing agent. E.
Instructed.
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 Is that all?
And creditor.
Creditor.
And creditor, indeed. This one will again have a dual role. And let's start from the beginning again. So A would be defined as debtor. Then B,
Debtor agent.
debtor agent. So then this will be the instructing, this will be the instructed and the creditor agent. So what would C then be if D is instructing?
Previous instructing.
Previous instructing agent 1. Yeah. Instructing, instructed, and creditor agent, creditor. And then the last flow between E and F.
E is instructing.
Yes. Is that all?
So it will be the instructing agent, E.
Yes.
And
F would be instructed. Agent.
F would be instructed. Yes, that's
But
50%. 50%.
Is E a dual role though?
Indeed. They both,
Yeah,
E and F, will
instructing
both
agent and
have
creditor
dual roles.
agent.
Indeed,
Yep.
instructing agent and creditor. And here you have instructed agent and creditor. Okay. And then to start, our
Debtor.
agent A will remain the debtor. B remains the debtor agent. And then if this will be, E will be our instructing, what will C and D be?
Previous instructing agent 1 and 2.
Indeed. Voila, we have everything. It was easy, no? Easier than yesterday, no? No? A bit tricky, but yeah. So you
Tricky,
see
but
again.
easy. That was well said.
Yeah. You have the roles that always remain the same, that remain static. The debtor agent, the creditor agent, and the previous instructing agents, they remain the same. The instructing and the instructed and the intermediary, those can change from leg to leg. Okay. This was for the serial flow. Now let's have a look at the cover flow. So there we will have different messages. The first one that we'll do is the PAX 8, and then we'll have the several PAX 9 legs. So in the PAX 8, so first we have this PAX 8 from agent A to B. How will the different actors be defined there? Here we see again our corporate.
Still debtor.
It's still the debtor. Still the debtors. And A, what would that be? In the PAX 8, we only look at this PAX 8 from A to B.
PAX 8. Oh.
Yes. It's a cover flow. So this is the announcement. The announcement from A to B that B will receive the funds through the covering flow. Covering
But it's
flow that
also
consists of
on
the PAX
our-
8.
So
I
instruct,
think from my activity book, the arrow, the green arrow goes from 1 to A, not A to B.
Yep.
From here to here?
Yeah,
Yep, on the
on the
exercise.
on the exercise, it goes from under, instead of have the
We have step by step,
green.
actually.
Yeah,
It goes from the corporate to A, or?
That's the first one. Then A to C, and then C to D, and then D to B.
No, I will have a look at it to align it. I must admit I did not really look at the decks that were on the server for the activities. So let me write that down with the other remark there. So don't look at the activity book, look at the screen then. This is the PAX 8, so the announcement. So how will A define the different parties and agents? Our corporate is the debtor. A, what is A?
Debtor agent.
that's
so
the
still
agent.
instructed and debtor agent.
Not instructed, instructing.
Instructing.
Because we look at the PAX 8 sent from A to B. So A is both debtor agent
Oh,
and
instructing
instructing
agent and debtor.
agent, sending the PAX 8.
Yep.
Yeah. Then we have our parties here, because those need to be mentioned in the PAX 8, right? They are PAX 8. Remind me, which settlement method will your PAX 8 have?
Cove.
COVE. So that means when you have COVE, you must have these agents.
Instructing reimbursement agent.
Indeed.
Oh,
And
okay.
Instructed.
instructed reimbursement agents. Yeah. Then your agent B receiving the PAX 8 here.
Instructed agent, creditor agent.
Indeed, dual role again. And your corporate at the end
Creditor.
is the creditor. Correct. So that was for the announcement message PAX 8. Now let's have a look at the different cover legs. So the PAX 9 cov, first one that we look at is the one here between A and C. Now, how would you call this corporate here? Sorry?
Ordering customer.
That's MT language, huh? Ordering
sorry.
customer.
Initiating party? No.
No. No, let's start with a.
It's still the debtor, isn't it? Debtor.
There is debtor in it, but it cannot be the debtor because in a PAX 9 we said debtor and creditor must be financial institutions. So
Right.
the corporate here cannot be the debtor, but we say it is the underlying debtor because it is the debtor of the underlying PAX 8.
Okay.
And this is what you will have to put in the PAX 9 cov as the underlying information. So this is now called the underlying debtor.
That's the name of the element on the PAX 9. The underlying debtor.
The element itself is called underlying, what was the exact name? The mandatory underlying customer credit transfer information, I think, or the elements itself, the sub elements, I don't think they have underlying in it, but the header element says underlying.
Okay.
So the parent element says underlying, so it's all sub elements that are in there are underlying, in fact.
Okay.
Okay, but we will have a look in my standards at the PAX9 COF later on. For the underlying debtor, then we have A
Debtor agent.
in this leg, in this PAX9 COF from A to C.
Debtor agent.
Agent, debtor agent.
No, it's the
Debtor.
one sending the message. It's
Debtor.
the debtor.
Oh,
The
the
debtor.
agent.
Yes.
Agent.
This one becomes the debtor and instructing agent. Okay.
And this is
Agent
instructed
C.
agent.
This is indeed the instructed agent. Then our agent D.
Instructed.
Maybe it's easier to first do
Yeah.
the B. If this is the debtor, this will be
Creditor.
Creditor.
creditor, indeed. Yeah, and then we have the creditor agent in front. And then our corporate here at the other end, if we apply the same logic as for the underlying creditor.
Underlying.
Indeed.
Which again will contain the information from the PAX 008.
Yes. The next leg here from C to D, we have this domestic system in the middle, so that's why it is grayed out, but it doesn't make any difference for the definition, the identification of the actors. It's just meaning that it would not be CBPRplus, it could be another market practice like HVPS+ or IAP, but the actors remain the same. So from C to D, our PAX9 COF. What is our corporate?
With the underlying debtor.
No,
Remains the underlying debtor. And then we have our agent A.
That would be the previous instructing agent.
Yeah, but there's a more
agent?
important role.
Just the
The
debtor
debtor agent.
Just
Debtor.
the debtor. It remains a debtor. You don't have to look at this PAX8 anymore. Now we are really in the PAX9s. So the debtor, it remains a static role. So debtor A will remain the debtor in this whole cover flow.
Okay.
Mm.
You said this was because it is a financial institution.
Yes, debtor and creditor must be financial institutions. In a,
Now,
yeah.
when you-
Yes. Yeah, we are now in C to D, yeah?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But the debtor remains A and the creditor remains B.
So instructing.
Indeed, so we're looking at this message
Instructing.
sent from C to D. So this is the instructing. Instructing is C and D.
Instructed.
Instructed, indeed. And then I just said the creditor remains static. So this is the creditor.
Would be
And
the
the,
same underlying creditor.
and the underlying creditor would also be the same, indeed.
Mm.
And then we have our last leg here in this picture, although this last leg, the PAX9 COF, is in fact a deviation from the global market practice because the creditor agent would normally send a CAM 53, a CAM 54 instead of the PAX9.
You're marking it as an option, right?
Yes, apparently this is more, but we have people from US here. Is it more like the practice is more like this in US apparently? Yeah. So now when we look at this last leg here from D to B, how would you identify the corporate?
Underlying
Still
debtor.
Underlying debtor remains the same. Debtor remains the same.
Previous
Then we have
instructing agent.
Yeah,
no. There
previous.
is a more important role for this one.
Like previous instructing.
Or intermediary?
No, no.
It's
So
the
that-
debtor agent.
The debtor agent, indeed.
Oh, debtor.
And then we have, yeah, these are the easiest ones. So the one that send the message, D is sending the message, instructing, and then we have our agent B, which has a dual role.
Instructed and creditor.
And instructed
Yeah.
agent.
And at the end,
The underlying.
Underline.
yes,
Okay.
indeed. So again, the same conclusion as before, where we have static elements. You have the debtor, the creditor, the debtor agent, the creditor agent, the previous instructing agent, they all remain the same. The roles of the other agents will change as the message goes through the payment chain. And in the PAX9 COP, well, you really have two debtors and two creditors, but one is the underlying debtor, underlying creditor. Okay, so the main differences with the PAX8. Well, first you have the settlement method. We already mentioned it. In the PAX8, you have three options, INDA, INGA, and COVI. The PAX9 Core and the PAX9 COV only have two, INDA and INGA, no COVI. The COVI was only allowed in the PAX9 advice, which we don't cover in this training. In the, yes?
So if you go to the previous slide, then so would all these PAX9 would be INGA?
Inga or INDA?
INGA.
We don't know. Doesn't play.
INGA.
It doesn't matter for the definition of the actors. In fact, we don't know. It could be INDA or INGA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's for sure is that this one must be COV.
Okay.
Okay, so the instructing and instructed and third reimbursement agents, they can only be there when you have settlement method COVI. So in the PAX8, they are there. They are mentioned as optional, but there's the rule, if you use COVI, then they must be present. Whereas in the PAX9 Core and the PAX9 COV, they are not available because you can never have the COVI settlement method, right? PAX9 has a lot less elements than the PAX8. For instance, instructed amount, exchange rate, charge bearer, charges information, ultimate creditor, ultimate debtor, all those are not available in the PAX9 because all those elements that are related to amounts and charges, they are not there because there are not supposed to be any charges in the PAX9. You will only have the interbank settlement amount in the PAX9 because that amount will have to be transported unchanged throughout the chain. While in a PAX8, you can have charges and you can have exchange rates, and you have the instructed amount because that will be the amount that will be moved unchanged between debtor and creditor, whereas it's the interbank settlement amount that can change from leg to leg. In the identification of the parties, the debtor and the creditor, we also have a change because in the PAX8, either debtor or creditor or both can be non-financial, must be non-financial institutions. So you have any BIC that is allowed, while in the PAX9 and the PAX9 COV, it's only BIC FI. So you cannot have any BIC. The debtor and the creditor of a PAX9 must be financial institutions.
So it needs to be a big FI.
Yes. regulatory reporting, we saw it yesterday, is available in the PAX 8, not present in the PAX 9. Same for related remittance information, not present in PAX 9. The underlying customer credit transfer, not present in the PAX 8, mandatory in the PAX 9 COV, not there in the PAX 9 either. So only for the PAX 9 COV, that's what distinguishes a PAX 9 COV from a PAX 9 core, is that you have this block underlying customer credit transfer information. The business service in the business application header, remember that is where you are telling the network the rules that have to be applied, and you find it in the usage identifier in the header of my standards. It is different for the cover. You will find the COV here. You do not find it in the message definition in the business application header. If you put a PAX 9, you will not see if it's a core or a COV. You see the difference in the business service.
So, and if it was an advice, that would be ADV.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yeah. The remittance information in a PAX 8 can be structured or unstructured. We said structured always needs to be bilaterally agreed. In the PAX 9, it's only unstructured. Debtor creditor, we already said with the any big can be non-FI or FI. Here only FI is allowed. And the debtor agent and the creditor agent were mandatory in the PAX 8. Remember, we had 6 mandatory agents in the PAX 8. You still remember which ones? Well, you already have 2 that are mentioned here, the debtor agent and the creditor agent. The other ones for the PAX 8 were the debtor and the creditor, and the instructing agent and the instructed agent. Whereas here, the debtor agent and the creditor agent in the PAX 9 are optional. Before we do the business scenarios for the PAX 9, let's go to my standards. I'll share again. Are you seeing my standards?
Yes.
And I think yesterday or the day before, when I told you to select the messages, I forgot to tell you to also select the PAX 9 COV. I think, because I think you only have 7 messages in your selection. Do you, or do you have 8? I only had 7.
I'm selecting it right now.
In the break, I realized that I didn't have the PAX 9 COV in my selection. Does everyone still remember how to go and select messages if you don't have it in your selection?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. All right,
No.
so you should, no? Okay.
And why
You-
does yours show 8? Like I've got all of mine added, but it just shows my selection. So I click on it, but it doesn't have a count. The count should reflect what I have added.
Ah, yes. If you click on it,
Huh.
you have things in there, or it's empty?
Oh, just one. Yep. Nope.
Ah,
It's correct.
okay. So you should select them going to the CBPRplus landing page. You go to this green button, Usage Guidelines and Readiness Portal. You select the collection, the first one, CBPRplus Standards Release 2024 Combined. There it will open up the collection where you have all the messages listed, and they are sorted alphabetically. So you would need to select the PAX 9 COV. So here, this one, the PAX 9 00108 COV. And you see just above, we have the 009 00108 advice, but that one is not covered. You don't have to select it. Or you can select it if you, after the training, if you are curious and you want to go and have a look at it, you can select it from here. But so you have 3 flavors of the PAX 9. The normal one, so without any suffix here. This one we need and the PAX 9-00108 COV. And then if you still have to select the others, we will still be doing the PAX 4, the payment return. That will be for tomorrow. PAX 004001 version 9, and then the camped messages, camped 52, 53, and 54. Okay, do you now see the counter changing in your selection?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, so let's have a look at our PAX 9 messages. I think I have already opened them. This was still the PAX 2. I have the PAX 9 and I have the PAX 9 COV. Yeah. So if you open up the PAX 9, again, when you open up, you are by default in the content view. So you have this restrictions column, which shows you the differences with the base message. So I find it easier to go to the clean view, but as a recap here, for instance, you see supplementary data has been removed. If we compare the CBPRplus PAX 9 with the base message, you see that there's a fixed value 1 here for the credit transfer transaction. All of this we have already seen. So we want a clean view. We go to the result view and we are in our PAX 9. So we have the business application header, same as we have seen before for the PAX 8, so we will not repeat that one. Open the document. You have the group header, which is also the same here as we have seen before. Settlement method, only 2 options, INDA and INGA, no COVE, so also no reimbursement agents here. If you go to the credit, yes?
That like the business application header are the same for all messages and the group.
Yes, it's basically the same for all message, but the group header, for instance, in the PAX 2, we saw that it was reduced. Here, yeah. If you will open up the group header, you will have more, you have those 4 mandatory elements, while if you open up the PAX 2, you will see that there were only 2 mandatory elements. But it will be the same principle, that the elements that are there, they follow the same rules in the business application header. For instance, it will be always the same. It's the same business application header that is added to all messages, whereas in the group header, it can vary, can have less or more elements. Settlement information in a PAX 2 doesn't make any sense, so it is not their number of transactions either. Okay. The credit transfer transaction information, well, there we have, you see, it looks like a PAX 8. You see the same elements coming back, but there's a lot less. You don't have all these, you only have the interbank settlement amount. You will not find the instructed amount because, as we said, there are no charges. There is no exchange rate. Interbank settlement amount has to be transported unchanged throughout the chain. If we look at the agents, you see the mandatory agents. You have debtor, creditor, and instructing an instructed agent. That's all. The debtor agent and the creditor agent are optional if we compare it with the PAX 8. Remittance information, you will only have unstructured, while in the PAX 8 you had both options, structured and unstructured. Your instruction for creditor agent, for next agent, those are the same. The purpose element, still there too. You have this choice icon, so you must choose either a code or proprietary form. Code, when you select code, again, you will be directed to the external code set. So the same principles as the PAX 8. Now, when we look at the PAX 9 COV, yes, the PAX 9 COV, you see your usage identifier here is changed. You have the COV in it, but you will again have the same structure. It's almost the same as the regular PAX 9. So you have the business application header and you open the document. You see your group header. You see the credit transfer transaction information. I'm in the content view. I didn't switch the view yet because I come across the supplementary data, which is part of the base message only. CBPRplus has restricted it, so I forgot to go to the result view. So in the result view, you open up the credit transfer transaction information. You will see the same elements as you have seen in the PAX 9, in the regular PAX 9. But if you scroll to the end, you have this mandatory underlying customer credit transfer block here, which are only, you see the elements itself do not say underlying here. They just say debtor, but this would be the debtor from the underlying PAX 8. All these elements that are in this underlying customer credit transfer element are from the PAX 8. And at a minimum, you need to put the debtor agent, and the creditor agent. So from the PAX 8 announcement. This is really how you distinguish the PAX 9 COV from the normal PAX 8, is that you have this mandatory underlying customer credit transfer information for screening purposes. Okay. Shall we do a business scenario so that you can practice a bit these messages? We'll first start with the PAX 9, the regular one. Let me. Okay. You see the presentation again?
No,
Yeah.
we see your, I see your overview. So the presenter view, not the presentation.
Yes. Okay.
The presentation version.
I'm not presenting in screen in Teams anymore. Wait, I will share my other screen. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the business scenario 4A. I hope it matches now with the activity, the document. If it's not, just tell me. I will add it to my list of corrections to make. So here we are in a serial PAX 9. We have again our friend KBC Bank in Brussels, CredBB, that needs to instruct its US dollar correspondent JP Morgan Chase, so Chase US 33, to pay US dollar to Doha Bank at their account with CityUS. So you're asked to format the PAX 9 that KBC will send to Chase US 33 to transfer $700,000 from its account so-and-so at JP Morgan, move the funds to City US 33 in order to pay Doha Bank with this account. The reference is provided by KBC for a maturity of a fixed loan deposit, and the US domestic leg, the payment leg, should be settled via an RTGS. settlement date is 15th of December. Okay, shall we define the actors again first before you start populating the message? So we are in this flow here from KBC Bank to Chase US, this serial PAX 9. How would you define KBC Bank?
Debtor.
Debtor? Is that all?
Instructing agent.
Instructing agent.
Instructing agent, indeed. And then Chase US 33.
Instructed agent.
And
debtor agent.
And debtor agent, correct. And then we have City US.
The creditor agent.
Indeed. And Doha Bank.
Creditor.
The creditor.
The creditor, indeed. Okay. So I'll give you some time to give it a go. We start with the group header, so you have less work to do. The application header is not present anymore here, but of course, in real life, the business application header is mandatory in all CBPRplus messages.
Mm.
Somebody put a timer? Is that the buzzer that I hear, that the time is up? Do you need more time, or do you want to go over it together?
Let's go over.
All right. So we are in our group header. Let's imagine the business application header will be copied automatically, right? Once we have refilled everything. So the group header, first thing was the message ID. What did you put there? Nothing?
I put DOHBQA00, whatever.
The long one.
Yeah.
This one, you mean? The
Yep,
message
long.
ID. Did you look in my standards? Did you open up the PAX9 and did you check in the group header? What does it say for message identification?
To be the
put
same as
this-
the instruction ID.
Yeah, and the
Indeed.
ABC one.
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
Oh,
The instruction ID, if no, it said in my standards, if no unique message identification can be generated, then the element is recommended to be populated with a copy of instruction identification.
Okay.
It's a recommendation. It's not that it would be nacked if you don't do it, but it's a recommendation.
so where do you get the ID from?
Below,
From the instruction,
on the payment ID,
from the payment ID, the instruction identification,
right by the middle of the message.
in the credit in the other block, so not in the group header. If you open up the credit transfer transaction information block, if you open up payment identification, then the first element that you will have is the instruction identification.
The ABC.
So that's an ID that KBC Bank generated?
Yes, it will be
Oh,
generated by
yeah.
KBC. Here, we
Sorry,
just gave it,
sorry.
we could have given also the message ID here for the sake of the example. We could have given them both, but it was just for you to go and look in my standards. But yes, both are generated by KBC.
Okay.
Okay. Then number of transactions.
1.
That's always 1, indeed. Right. Settlement information. What is the settlement method? What did you put?
INDA.
INDA. Can you explain why?
Because it's settling at the account with the Chase, JP Morgan Chase.
Indeed, Chase is the account servicer, because in the scenario, it said that, how did it say it? KBC instructs JP Morgan Chase to transfer 700,000 USD from its account at GPM. So here it's formulated in a clearer way that it is in the. It says Credit Bank has an account at JP Morgan Chase, so the settlement will be done by JP Morgan Chase. It also has specified the settlement account. So what did you put here under other? Remember, we have the option when we identify an account, you have the option IBAN or other. Here it's other. So what did you put for the settlement account?
147.
Yes, indeed.
74.
We close the settlement account, we close the settlement information, we close the group header, then we go in the credit transfer transaction information block. We have the payment identification. So the first one was indeed the instruction ID that has been copied in the message ID. The end-to-end ID.
Not provided.
The DOH.
DOHB.
Indeed, it was provided.
Okay, so that is the end-to-end.
Yes.
But what happened to the equivalent of the reference? We had some earlier examples on the PAX 008 where we had like an invoice reference, and this is
in the remittance information, the invoice or the purpose, the category purpose or the remittance information.
Yeah, so there's no equivalent here because
that
I
will be
interpreted
further
it
down.
as this.
Here I think for the sake of the exercise, it's a simple one. There is no codes that are requested or anything for the purpose or the category purpose. No, we just had this end-to-end reference that you can put here. It was not asked for a purpose, but they also exist. We have those elements in the PAX 9, but just for the sake of the exercise, they are not being withheld here.
Okay, so it should be interpreted as end-to-end.
Yes.
Okay.
Then we had here the clearing channel. What did you put here?
RTGS.
RTGS. Did you go and look in my standards also?
Yep.
There were 4 possible codes. And these were not from the external code list. There are only 4 codes, so they are embedded in the message. You have to select one out of the 4.
But doesn't it tell us in number 3 on the side? Or is that?
Where are you looking in
Yeah.
my standards now? Or?
No, like right on your screen, it says the US domestic payment. It says should be settled via RTGS.
Via RTGS, indeed. But maybe, yeah, it would be logic that the code is RTGS, but it could be like another code for RTGS. Remember, it could be possible. So best is always to go and check in my standards what are the options. Yeah.
Okay.
But indeed, here it was the same. It's RTGS, so the code is RTGS. The amounts. What did you put for the interbank settlement amount?
USD.
Indeed.
700,000.
The date.
The 15th of November. 2022.
December
Yes.
15th.
Is it the same in the
2022.
activity sheet?
Yeah.
It's the same. That's my
Okay.
birthday.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Coming up.
Hey.
Yeah.
You can expect a similar type of wire transfer on your birthday.
Exactly.
The instructing agent.
DBC.
BBC, indeed. Instructed agent.
Chase.
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 The debtor.
KBC.
ABC. The creditor agent.
City.
No.
City. The creditor.
DOHB.
Indeed.
Bourbon.
And then the creditor account.
525415.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, the final.
Voila, that was the serial PAX 9. Now we have a cover one also, of course, that will be a bit more work because here you will be asked to populate both the PAX 008 message, so the announcement message that is sent from KBC to Japan Post Bank, and the cover leg. So again, we have Comtech, our corporate, that has sent payment initiation request to its bank KBC to transfer $1.5 million to its supplier Toyota Motors in Japan at their account at Japan Post Bank. KBC has decided to initiate a cover via its correspondent JP Morgan Chase US 33. You have the account that it has at Chase and that needs to be used for the settlement. So you are asked to format this PAX 8 between KBC and Japan Post Bank. Japan Post Bank, so GPPS, will be reimbursed via its correspondent Citibank, Citi US 33. You have the reference that Comtech has assigned to the request. You know that the charges are shared and you have the settlement date. So here we will have to define the actors 2 times for both flows because they are not the same in both flows. So let's start with the PAX 8. So only looking at the PAX 8 that is sent from KBC to Japan Post Bank. What will be the role of Comtech? The debtor, indeed. KBC.
Debtor agent and instructing agent.
Yes, yes, indeed, the dual role. And then our 2 agents here, Chase US and Citi US.
The underline? No, reimburse?
No, in reimbursement, indeed. The instructing reimbursement and the instructed reimbursement.
Reimbursement, yeah.
Okay. And then we have Japan Post Bank, which roles
Instructed and agent.
instructed agent and
Creditor agent.
creditor agent, and Toyota
Creditor.
creditor, indeed. And then when we look at this leg, the PAX 9 COV, so sent from KBC to Chase, what will be the role of Comtech?
Underlying debtor.
Underlying debtor, indeed. KBC.
Debtor.
Instructing
Debtor.
agent. That
Debtor and
instructing agent.
instructing agent, correct. Chase US.
Instructed agent.
Instructed agent. Citi.
Creditor agent. Oh,
Indeed.
no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Creditor agent. And here, Japan Post Bank.
Creditor.
Creditor. And Toyota.
Underlying creditor.
Underlying creditor. Correct. So you start with the PAX 8 because you will be needing information from the PAX 8 to then do the cover leg. Okay. And this will be the last activity for today. We'll close the session. If anyone still has questions on the content of previous sessions, I can stay on the call. But the content of the training will stop after this business scenario 4B. Then tomorrow we'll continue with the PAX 4 and the camp messages. Okay.
but we are doing all 10 scenarios, sort of.
All what?
Sort of the scenarios, it's until the end of it, so 10 out of 10.
Yes, there are
Yep.
for the two.
Very
So
good.
these, the 2 out of 10, this is the PAX 8 and then the PAX
Yep.
9. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Good.
Instructing financial. Gosh. Instructing. That.
Let me know once you have, let me know once you have finished the PAX 8. We can already go through the PAX 8 before you do the PAX 9, if you want.
Have PAX 9 cover.
Yes.
Oh, merda.
You started with the PAX 9 cov?
My exercise, everything is PAX 9 cover.
Yeah, the title is PAX 9 cover, but the first message that you get
Okay, yeah,
is the PAX 8, right?
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. No worries. It's the title that is misleading because you need the PAX information of the PAX 8 to format the PAX 9.
Okay.
So you want us already to go through the PAX 8?
Yes, please.
Yes? Okay. So here we have our application header again, so that you don't forget it. What did you put in the application header for the from? So we are now looking at this PAX 8 from KBC Bank to Japan Post Bank, right? The announcement message. It's a cover scenario, so KBC will send 2 messages. First one is the PAX 8 to inform Japan Post Bank how it will receive the funds, because in this PAX 8 there is no transport of funds, so there is no funds that are transported with this message. It's just an announcement. So what did you put in the from?
KBC big code.
Yes, a KBC big code. Indeed. So here they have put XXX. Just be consistent that when there is a rule that says that this pic needs to map another pic, you need to have 11 characters then both sides, or 8. You can choose 8 or 11, but needs to be consistent. And in the 2, Japan Post Bank, indeed. Then you have the business message identifier.
DEF 44506.
Indeed. Can you repeat the rule for this business message identifier?
Needs to be the same as the instructed ID from the credit transfer information.
Not the instructed ID, but the message ID.
Oh, the message ID.
The message
Right.
ID
They
in the
are the
group header.
same.
Yes. Yes, sometimes, not always. The message definition identifier.
PAX 008. 0108.
00108. Yeah. And it comes from the namespace. It needs to be the same as what you see here in the document namespace. The business service.
Swift CBPRplus
Yes.
02.
Indeed. Coming from the usage identifier in my standards. Okay, we have the creation date was given, so all the mandatory elements of the application header are there. Sorry, was there a question?
No, sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
So we open the document, start with the group header, message ID, the credit creation date and time, number of transactions.
1.
As always, the settlement information.
Cove.
Cove, indeed.
It's Cove because okay.
So Cove implies that you will have these agents, the instructing reimbursement agent and the instructed reimbursement agent.
So the first one is
So
Chase.
what is the first
Chase.
one? The first one is Chase, indeed. And the second one,
City.
City US. Now,
CTUs.
yes, if these two are the same, it can happen that instructing is the same as the instructed, then you only populate the instructing. Okay. All right, so settlement information element is closed, the group header is closed. We open the credit transfer transaction information block, payment identification with the instruction ID, the end-to-end ID. What did you put?
BCT 123.
Indeed, it's the ID
That's
that
fine.
is the reference that is provided by the debtor, right? If the debtor would not have provided anything, here you have to put not provided. Yeah. Okay, payment identification is done. Now we have the category purpose. Did you go to the external code list to find something suitable? Ah, and I
Oh,
already.
they already filled it out for
They
us.
already filled it out. Okay. Okay, that's good. It's SUPP for supplier. Yeah. Now this category purpose element, we said it can have an impact on the processing. So
Not
it's
not to be obvious, that's the one we would look on the ISO.
yes, this is
so
where you would look it up in the external code set list. Yes, you first go to my standards to this element, you copy the string that you find on the right hand side when you select the element, and then you go to that Excel sheet and you filter on that string. Yeah, yes. Then the interbank settlement amount.
USD
1.5 million US dollars.
Yes. The date that was provided was the 15th of December. How can we forget it? And then the charge bearer.
Share.
Yes, share for shared. Instructing agent. The sender of the message, so it's KBC that sends it to Japan. Could be EBB, XXX, because we put already XXX in the business application header in the from. With the instructed agent.
Japan.
Japan Post Bank, yes. The debtor. Comtech, yes, with the structured address. Oh, I already put the account numbers too. Then we have the debtor agent.
Oh.
KBC.
Indeed. The creditor agent.
JP.
JPS. Indeed. The creditor. Toyota Motors with its address. The creditor account. So need an easy account to remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3,
Yes,
4, yeah.
indeed. And here we have the purpose code.
So
Would be the same as before?
Well, it's not necessarily the same. I don't know all the codes by heart when you look it up in the external codes list. Here we are talking about the payment of an invoice. So there was a code which says IVPT, which is invoice payment. But there could be more. If there's one for supplier payment, for instance, I don't know. That you have that list of codes, there can be more than one suitable code. It's not really carved in stone which code that you should use. This is just information for the end user, for the creditor, to be able to have an easier reconciliation.
Sophie, just so this purpose code and the previous
The category
purpose.
Yes.
What would be the difference there? What are they trying to define?
The category purpose is more for is information for the next agent on how to process the payment. You know, if you would have bilateral agreements in place. You could say, if I use this code ABCD, it means that you will process it, I don't know, same day, for instance.
Okay, but between the agents, not end to end. So this
No,
IBPT
the
is for
purpose
the
code is for the end user.
yeah. This
Yes.
purpose code is for the end
Yes.
user, and the category code is for the
Category
okay,
for the
good,
next
then.
agent. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Remittance information. We have structured and unstructured. Here, the remittance information, they went for structured. Remember, we said needs to be bilaterally agreed if you use structured information, because you can have up to 9,000 characters here. We will not have that many, luckily. But here, did you get here, or didn't you have enough time to?
I didn't get there.
No, I can imagine. I can imagine. So this is the type in the structured information. There was also a code there that stands for commercial invoice, CINV, and then further down in this structured remittance information, you can put the invoice number, and the invoice number was the one that was given here in the scenario, the Corolla 6676. So that is the PAX8, and you will need information from the PAX8 to be able to populate the PAX9 COV. I give you a couple of minutes to have a look at it before we go over it together. So the PAX9 COV, if you open it in My Standards, pay attention that you open up the right one, the COV.
In that sample, it doesn't say how much the charge is, no?
No.
So how do we? Is it like
you don't know. You assume it's 0. Then if you don't know,
it could be that they have a bilateral agreement that they paid separately.
yes, that they paid separately. Yeah, indeed.
Oh, American. Sorry.
Shall we go through it together? Because you see we are approaching already the end. I didn't realize it was already that late. So in our PAX 9 COF, sent from KBC again to Chase US, we have our application header. What did you put in the from?
KBC.
Yes, KBC. In the to
Chase.
Chase, indeed. We have our business message identifier that is given. We have to put the message definition identifier. What did you put there?
PAX 09000108.
Yes, no cover. You don't have it in the message definition identifier, but in the business service, what did you put there?
CBPRplus.
.cov, indeed. So you see that it's a cover message in the business service, not in the message definition.
Cover messages will be.
We close the application header, we go to the document, the message ID.
The message ID had to be the same.
I put the XYZ.
That's correct, because it needs to match the business message identifier of the business application header, right? That was a rule.
Mm-hmm.
Number of transactions.
One.
So it's settlement method.
Code.
What did you put? INDA, yeah, INDA, because it clearly said that KBC will initiate a cover settlement method via JP Morgan Chase, where it has the account so and so to be used for settling the payment. So this means that Chase is servicing the account of KBC. So
yeah,
Chase will do the settlement. So it's INDA, instructed agent, that will do the settlement. Settlement account was also given.
Yeah,
369.
Yes, indeed. Then further down, the group header is closed. Credit transfer transaction information, the payment identification, instruction ID is given. What did you put for the end-to-end ID?
Provided.
CPT.
I'm sorry?
CPT 12355.
I put
No.
not provided because this is the PAX 9.
It is a PAX 9, indeed. It's not PCT. It is, there was a rule in my standards. It's DEF 445 until, because my standard says it needs to be in a PAX 9 COV. We are in the COV here, so in the PAX 9 COV, it needs to be the instruction ID of the PAX 8. So the PAX 8 that you have been building just before, it needs to be the instruction ID of that underlying message.
Okay.
And same for the UETR. UETR is also from the underlying PAX 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Category purpose was all given again. The interbank settlement amount.
US 1.5 million.
Yes, indeed. Settlement date remains.
Yeah.
The very important 15th of December date. Instructing agents.
KBC.
KBC again. Instructed agent,
Chase.
Chase. The debtor,
JPPS.
no.
Oh.
The debtor, we are talking about this
Oh, sorry.
payment, this leg here from KBC to Chase.
So
The
that is
KR.
KBC.
They already KBC again, yes. You will hate that big code in the end, I think. Then the debtor agent.
That's Chase.
That's Chase, indeed. The creditor agent.
City.
City. The creditor.
JPP.
Yes, Japan Post Bank. And then we have that underlying customer credit transfer element, which is typical characteristic for the PAX9 COV. That's what distinguishes the PAX9 COV from the normal PAX9. This mandatory underlying customer credit transformation. So all the information in here comes from the underlying PAX8.
Yeah.
The debtor.
Contact
Yes, that's Comtech, indeed.
information and
Context information.
balance.
And the debtor agent. I'm sorry?
No, hold on. Is that KBC?
Indeed, it's KBC again. The creditor agent.
The creditor.
Japan, indeed. Japan Post Bank and the
I assume
creditor.
then Toyota Motors.
Toyota Motors, indeed. With the account that was given, the one that was easy to remember. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then the purpose code will be the same as we had in our PAX8, in fact. So the one that you didn't have time to look for, but again, you need to go to the external code set and look for something that is suited for the payment of an invoice or payment of a supplier. Here there was the IVPT for invoice payment. And the remittance information. We have the code CINV and the Corolla. And that's it.
Hard.
That was hard work, eh? Yeah. But again, I think you're doing very well. Now, I don't know if that's difficult in an online session. I cannot do a tour around the classroom to see if everybody is at the same speed. So I think some might have more problems, more difficulties than others if this is the first time that you are exposed to all of this and the first time that you go in my standards. I can imagine that it's a bit overwhelming maybe. So I don't know, what is your feeling? Is it okay? Are there people that would like to go over certain things again? I could do that tomorrow. Today will be difficult because we are already over time and I still have another meeting, but tomorrow we will finish early. So there will be some time after the session if you want me to repeat some stuff or, I don't know, go over my standards again over certain things.
How much time are we gonna have for that?
What's tomorrow?
For that review session, like how long do you think we may have? I mean, I'm planning on listing down the different topics I'd like to address because I do have some queries. You know, first time looking at all these things, so.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I think tomorrow we will have like an hour spare time. Yeah. And even if it's half an hour, I can stay a bit longer on the call. Tomorrow I don't have any meetings right after the session.
That.
So yeah.
I'll definitely be part of it if that's okay.
Okay. All right. So are there any immediate questions now?
Not for now. Thank you.
No? Okay, then I wish you all a good day and
Thank you.
talk to you again tomorrow then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and end of the call.